Well, I think Soryu is away, um, um, and I went to the um, conference yesterday in White River Junction, and I think it was amazing. It's the Interfaith Conference, um, and it on global warming or climate change. Yeah, so it was really beautiful, and I think Soryu can tell lots about it that I won't be able to tell. I think I watched Peace Pilgrim talk, two talks, and I should tell you what I found. What I found which it was meaningful to me. But let's get settled, okay? So I think let's just get settled. So 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll lead you in. And so relax your body and straighten up, but relax. Breathe in and breathe out. You are here today. Whatever you had going on today, you are here. Honor that. And I will talk about Peace Pilgrim and the journey that she's on. And we are all on a journey, searching for ourselves, searching for each other. Searching for the air that we breathe. Searching with the trees that grow. But we could not make them grow. They grow. And we could not make the sky. but here it is. Now I'm going to ring the bell in a couple of minutes and open your heart to hear what Peace Pilgrim said and others that were inspired by her. And always ask, what can I do? What am I doing already? So, Peace Pilgrim stood for peace. Peace among nations, groups, and the environment. But most of all, for our inner selves. And she talked about that the most. And I think she had done the physical growing up and the emotional growing up, like she got along with other people and got along with her self, and the mental growing up. But she still had the spiritual or psychological growing up to do within her 15 years of 15 years preparation for her pilgrimage. And I think that is so striking to me, because I kind of am weaving my way through my accident. I got a bicycle accident. I got a traumatic brain injury, and I think I couldn't deal with it like all at once. I needed to kind of brace myself, like, okay, you know, and we were, or this is my dad, and I think we were kind of trying to find a balance, and I think physical and emotional and mental growing up, I had to do that, and but she said that there are people who have not. There are people who are all over on the growing scale, like they have not grown up emotionally, or they have, like there are all over the scale. So how do you, person you can only change, how do you want to show up to that? And like, what do you think about yourself and your transitions, or like think about that and consider. And there is this podcast, This American Life, and he was a man who was touched by Peace Pilgrim, and I wanted to let you hear of his story. Okay?
I spoke with Julia Lori the day that she tried something new with her students. She teaches English at an all-girls high school in South Korea, in the city of Gwangju.
Sorry. Is that loud enough?
Hi, Gwen. Is that a compass, a map, a toothbrush, and a bottle of Purell in your pocket? Or are you just happy to see me? Ona Baker has this story of somebody taking the reins and daring to start over to change his own life.
I went to NYU with a guy named Daryl Watson. Unlike a lot of the other students, Daryl didn't come from money. He was there on a scholarship, and instead of partying or doing drugs, he spent his time writing plays. Good plays. We kept in touch after college, but I hadn't heard from him in a little while, when in August 2009, I got the kind of email that's generally a cause for concern. It said, "Hello everyone. I'm writing to let you know that tomorrow I will be undertaking a pilgrimage for peace, walking across the country from Cape Henlopen State Park in Delaware to San Francisco, California. I'll no longer be using this email address or the name Daryl Watson. For the duration of this pilgrimage, I will carry the title carried by my predecessor, Peace Pilgrim. My peace and love go out to you all." Daryl's walk for peace across the entire country was supposed to take at least 6 months. 3 days later, he posted an update on his blog. All it said was, "Peace Pilgrim down." Repeat, Peace Pilgrim down. I remember thinking, 3 days? That's it? What happened? I'd never gotten the story, so a month ago I called him and we met up.
Well, I haven't seen you in years. All of a sudden we're a radio
I
station.
know, it's very, like, the most official way to see it. He told me the backstory. In 2007, Daryl was living in New York City and working at a children's TV show. That part I knew. His career was going well. What I didn't know is that he was also sort of falling apart. He'd been a devout Christian as a teenager. He'd even considered becoming a minister. But he'd left the church, and now, 5 years later, every night he was having these vivid dreams, where people would talk to him about who he was, what his purpose was on earth, the meaning of life. He'd wake up confused and upset and exhausted. The dreams started to preoccupy him during the day. They seemed more important than his waking life, to the point where he almost couldn't function.
Because I was wrestling with so much fear and so much doubt. And I wanted an end to the ambiguity. Like I wanted my mission statement. You know how every business has a mission statement? Or you know what I mean? That's what I wanted. Like, you were Daryl Watson. You were born on this day. This is your purpose. This is how you're going to do it.
All the dreams made him wonder if he had a spiritual calling that he was avoiding. Daryl wanted to feel a connection to God, a clear, unshakable answer. So he threw his career aside, left New York, and tried all the classics: silent meditation and fasting for 40 days, a trip to Peru to study under a shaman, a holy trip to Jerusalem. He did this for a year. Nothing helped. Finally, when he was just about to give up, he came across the story of Peace Pilgrim. Peace Pilgrim was a woman named Mildred Norman, who became famous in the 1960s in certain circles for walking across the United States and Canada and Mexico with no money or possessions, just a shirt that said Peace Pilgrim. She followed Jesus' advice to be like the lilies of the field, to trust that God would provide. She walked for 28 years. Here she is being interviewed in Pensacola in 1977.
I haven't got any money, and I don't even accept any money, and I don't belong to any organization, and I don't own anything except what you see. This is me and my only earthly possession sitting in this chair. I walk until given shelter, fast until given food. I don't even ask. It's given without asking.
I didn't know why other people weren't doing it.
Peace Pilgrim's story had all the answers Daryl was looking for. She trusted God and it worked. God did provide for her for almost 30 years. She had the unambiguous connection to God that Daryl desperately wanted. She had no doubt or fear, and her fearlessness inspired others.
I thought, why aren't more people giving away everything that they own and walking across the country? Of course, this is what you do. When you live in this world as crazy as it is, like, this is what you do.
So in August of 2009, Daryl decided to become today's Peace Pilgrim. He bought a blue t-shirt and spray painted Peace Pilgrim across the front and walking coast to coast for peace on the back. Then he shaved his hair and his beard. After that, he cleared out his bank accounts and credit cards, putting all the money into an envelope he planned to give to charity. Lastly, he tore up his driver's license. Just 10 days after first getting the idea, Daryl caught a bus to Delaware. That night, from a motel in Cape Henlopen, he sent the infamous mass email and then wiped his computer clean of files, including, shockingly, all the plays he'd written over the last 8 years. He left his computer, phone, and iPod in the motel room with a note for the cleaning staff to keep them. The next morning, August 30th, Daryl began his walk. He'd do what the original Peace Pilgrim did, trust that people would be moved by his faith in God and provide for him. So the only things in his pockets were a compass, a map, a toothbrush, and a bottle of Purell. No food, no sleeping bag, not even a coat. The first thing he wanted to do was give away the envelope with all his money, roughly $2,000.
That first night, like I walked by a church and I thought, oh, maybe I can give the money to whoever's at this church. And so I meet, there's a pastor there, and he and I start talking, and I try to give him this envelope full of money, and he gets a really suspicious look on his face, and he doesn't come right out and say it, but I think he probably thought that I stole it, because it's like a good deal of money in an envelope, and he looked at it, I kind of laughed, I was like, oh, no, I didn't steal this. I withdrew it. Like, I withdrew all the money from my bank account. That's where I got the money. Do you want
it? Something to know. The original Peace Pilgrim was a sweet-faced older white lady who started walking in the 1950s. Daryl is a tall, athletic 30-year-old black man walking in 2009. The pastor's reaction surprised him, but didn't shock him.
I wasn't like, oh my goodness, like why would he think that I stole this? Like, I think it was a reasonable suspicion regarding what color I was, but I don't think being black helped. I was annoyed, but then I was like, well, maybe this is a chance for me to spread the message, you know what I mean? So then he and I started talking, and, I told him why I was doing what I was doing, and he said, well, the only way to peace is really through Jesus. And I was like, I understand what you're saying. I used to believe that myself. I disagree. And he was like, you're wrong. And I got into a sort of heated theological debate. And then, finally I was like, well, maybe I should just be on my way. And he's like, you know what, I'm not going to take him. I think he was going to take the money. He actually was holding the envelope as he was debating with me. And then at a certain point, he was like, you know what, I'm not going to take this money because I feel like to take it from you, who's not a believer, would be sending the wrong message. And then he said, Jesus said to the disciples, if you go into a town and you try to spread the gospel and they don't hear you, leave that town and then wipe the dirt off your feet. And let that be a testimony to that place. And he said, so I wiped my feet off at you. And that really bothered me.
But Daryl couldn't dwell on it. He still had to get rid of the money and find a place to sleep. So he wrote, for charity on the envelope and dropped it in the first mailbox he saw. Without any offers to stay inside, Daryl slept on the steps of the Catholic church that night.
It was just starting to get cold, out. I didn't have a coat. I didn't have a sleeping bag. I didn't have like really anything. And it was just like concrete. And concrete is really cold. So that first night I barely slept at all. And the second day I walked into this college town and I made it to some sort of fast food restaurant place. I've stopped a lot of fast food places because they let you have like water for free, and I would just sit there and just try to like recover. And somebody saw, like this college kid saw my Peace Pilgrim shirt, and so he came over and started talking to me. And he's like, "That's really crazy that you're doing this. Like, have you done anything like this before?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Have you ever like hiked long distance or walked long distance like this?" I was like, "No." He was like, He's like, "You don't have any supplies or any food or anything like that?" And I said, "I'm not worried about it. Like, I think, I'm just sort of trusting in God's providence to get me through." And he's like, "Well, you're definitely going to freeze." He's like, "I don't know what God's going to help you do, in the cold, because it's starting to drop." He's like, "And once you hit the Midwest, there's going to be snow." Like, he's like, "And you don't have anything." Like, and he was wearing like a sweatshirt, this red sweatshirt, and he took it off and he gave it to me.
Wow.
And he was like, "Here." He's like, "You're going to need this more than I am." And he was right, because that night, I think it was even colder than the night before, and there was a definite wind.
By the end of day 2, in a college town of all places, Daryl still hadn't been offered a crash pad. So he found a baseball field on campus with a dugout and rolled himself like a burrito into a slab of AstroTurf. It was still cold, but he managed to get some rest. On day 3, approximately 40 miles in, Daryl crossed his first state line into Maryland. It was a triumph. He'd walked across an entire state. Granted, it was Delaware. Now his route took him into a rural area, which meant fewer cars and fewer people to stop and talk with. Feeling incredibly alone, he tried to keep his mind on God, like Peace Pilgrim had, and to give up his fear. But oddly, things were working the other way around for him. He'd entered the journey fearlessly, and only along the way was he beginning to understand how many things there were to fear.
I finally got to a point where I just couldn't walk anymore, and there was still daylight out. And I wanted to walk all day, but I just didn't have the strength.
Too tired to go any further, Daryl found another church, but it was locked. So he laid down in a covered concrete area behind it.
And I drifted off to sleep for like a moment, and then suddenly I feel like this warmth enter my body, and all of a sudden I have all this energy, and I hear like a voice inside of me say, "You gotta get up and you need to start walking right now, or you are going to freeze to death." And I got up and I started walking, and after I got that second wind and I got to a playground, there was like a slide that had a little house at the top. So I was like, "Oh, shelter," and I climbed in, and it was like metal and like wet inside. But I still tried anyway, just because it was at least protecting me from the wind.
And it looked like a tiny
house. It looked like a tiny house. So, and I started to drift off a little bit, and I felt that same voice kind of kick in and say, "You got to get out of here, leave." And sure, I had a moment where I was like, "Oh, is this God? Is this an angel?" And the moment I was like, whatever it is, it might have a point. I may need to get up and start walking. And maybe I can work out the psychological, theological, questions later. So I got up and I was just walking, trying to make it to the next town. And at one point, a police car pulled up behind me and started flashing his lights. And I got so happy because I thought maybe he'll take me to jail and I'll get to sleep inside of a warm place. And the cop got out, and because I was walking on the highway, and he was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "It's kind of late to be out for a walk, isn't it?
It was in the middle of the night.
It was like 1 or 2 in the morning. I told him what I was doing, that I was on a pilgrimage for peace. And he was like, okay, do you mind if I take a look inside your bag? I had a bag that a woman had given me. And I was using it to carry what little food I had. So I gave it to him. He looked through it. He gave it back to me. And he was like, okay, you're free to go. And I said, do you mind if I sit in the back of your car and just get warm for a little bit? Because when he opened the car door, I could feel the warmth inside of the car, and I wanted to be in there so badly. And I asked him, and he had a police dog in the back that was looking at me. And he said, I don't mind, but I think he would. And he pointed to the dog. So the cop drives off, and I walked for probably another 30 minutes. And I'm tired, I'm hungry, my feet are killing me, I'm really thirsty, I'm freezing, and I saw this billboard, and it said, it's okay to make mistakes as long as they're new ones. And I was like,
I think I want to pause this. And where does this go? And I think Peace Pilgrim said this is her little graph from the book that she had on her chart of her spiritual growth. And one, the ups and the downs of motion within the self-centered nature.
Did you bring the other copies to hand around?
Yes.
I just hand them around.
Yeah. Like. And 2, the first hump of no return, complete willingness without reservation to give a life to serve a higher will. 3, battle between the God-centered nature and the self-centered nature. So that's like and first P, experience a glimpse of inner peace, a longer and longer plateaus of inner peace. And then 6 is complete inner peace. But then 7 is continual growth on an upward steady path. So this was what she went on when she was had set off. This was what she went on when she set off. So I feel kind of like I can do this, you know. I can do this.
But it's not a straight line.
but it's not a straight line. It's like the man said, it's just up and down. And so let's listen to it all.
I wonder if I made a mistake. And it didn't quite sink in, yet, which is funny because maybe I like to think that, for someone who's been wanting messages about, what to do and what not to do, like God was like, let me give him a billboard. It makes me wonder now if that billboard even existed. And it wasn't just a hallucination. I'm pretty sure that it existed. But who knows? Who knows, man?
From the highway, Daryl could see the lights of a Best Western. He took the next exit and walked to the hotel. He got lucky. The woman working the night shift was nice and let him sit in the lobby and warm up for a few hours. But then her manager showed up.
He's looking at me and he doesn't know who I am. He knows I'm not a guest. He knows I've eaten food, that I've used the bathroom. He's got his eye on me.
Daryl didn't want any trouble from the manager, so he left and went across the street to a fast food place where he sat with his usual cup of water. He thought about the original Peace Pilgrim and felt embarrassed. She'd walked 25 miles a day in 3 different countries for 28 years. He'd made it to Denton, Maryland, and was done in after 3 days. Daryl saw that he hadn't had anywhere near enough respect for what she'd accomplished. He couldn't walk anymore, and he knew it. And with no money, no phone, no ID, he realized that he had only one option in the vicinity for getting rescued. So he went back to the Best Western and the suspicious manager.
I opened with, I have made a huge mistake. And then I just started telling him everything that had happened. I was crying. I told him, I was like, this is my shirt that I've made. It says Peace Pilgrim on it. And I showed him the back, which said Walking Coast to Coast for Peace. I started in Delaware. I made it here. And I'm completely exhausted and hungry. And I don't think I can walk another step. And he was like, well, do you need me to call social services or something like that? And I was like, no, I think I need to, if I could just, can I make a phone call?
Daryl called his mother, who got him a room for the night. Over the phone, she told him, I'm glad you're safe, get some rest, take a nice hot bath. Then he called a friend who rented a car and started driving down from New York to come get him. Upstairs, in his room, Daryl noticed that all the urgency, all the questioning that had driven him for the last couple of years, it was gone.
Probably the culminating moment in all of this was probably sitting in that bathtub and just being so exhausted that, I just didn't care anymore if I had the answer. Like, it just wasn't important.
He'd left New York more than a year ago. He'd been on this journey, most of it alone and suffering and trying to figure out the meaning of life. He'd been obsessing over his dreams a year before that. And 3 days in the cold made him realize he was doing this to himself. He was making himself suffer. And he could stop. Which landed him in the same messy place so many of us are in. Not having any answers. So we just ignore the questions and get on with our lives.
So, let's go into meditation about that and questioning what are you doing this for? Do you have an answer or not? Settle in. Settle into your body. Feel your feet. Settle into your body. Notice that you are breathing. You might have a perfect idea of why you are here, or you may not. That's okay. And like Peace Pilgrim said, we are all on our own journey. We are at all levels of emotional, mental, spiritual growth. And we might be sometimes uncomfortable, or we may be at peace. That's okay for both. You need joy, and on the other side of that, you need pain or uncomfortableness. Be with that and be open to that. But you are the judge. come back to your breathing and ask yourself, why am I here? What is calling me to be here or to show up? Ask that question and breathe. That's all. Just ask that question and breathe. come back to the breath and ask, why did I come? What is making me show up? Peace Pilgrim had a very clear message. Her message was peace. Peace among nations, groups, with our environment, and mainly inner work. What calls you? And maybe you don't know, as I don't know. And have that be okay, valid. And really question this and stay open. Why do I come? Peace Pilgrim said as she was combing her hair and looking in the mirror. She said, "You vain thing, you forgive others for making mistakes, but you won't forgive yourself." And now she knew that along with her respecting and treating others nicely, she had to treat herself nicely. And breathe in and breathe out. What are you doing this for? And you might not have an answer, which is fine. Now gently shift it over to a nurture positive practice. We are all here trying to search for something. We are all here together. Honor that. And like Peace Pilgrim said, we are all out of our different places, and we will come here together. Peace Pilgrim, open to everyone. She would not cast a blind eye to anyone. Notice that you are a web connected to every person. And let's be a movement meditation practice. And so you can follow me or move in any way that you want. Just asking, why are you here? Breathing in and out. Focus on your body. Notice what you did not notice about your body. Where is your mind right now? And become aware of that and focus it on your breathing. And you're asking the question, what am I here for? And gently lower back into your seat. Sit up and tall and settle down into your body. And breathe and ask lightly, Why am I here? What is calling me to be here? And let the words go. And feel it in your body. And ask it again. Um, hmm. So, I think Peace Pilgrim stood for peace. But I think you have a right to ask questions or kind of say how this experience went for you, and kind of like questions that you might have that we would not have the answers to.
I noticed that I would keep on asking a question and then just kind of find myself off somewhere in thought.
Mm-hmm.
It was really hard to just sit there and continually ask the question and open to what was happening.
Mm-hmm. You felt it was hard to ask the questions and be open to what was happening. Mm-hmm. And you didn't like that? Or?
I was mildly annoyed. Not too bad.
Mm-hmm. And when you, so you just thought about other thoughts?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I just find myself somewhere and thinking later, I should be breathing, asking the question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do this thing later, or think this about this topic.
Mm-hmm.
And then often though, I'd also be thinking about people, like the people here, and feeling a sense of love for everyone in this room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think Peace Pilgrim would definitely feel love for everyone in this room. No. No. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I found that I think I was what helped me stay on track was this really deep, profound respect and admiration for peace.
Mm.
Which was
Yeah.
listening to the young man, healthy, strong,
Mm-hmm.
3 days, and she did it. What she did is it's mind blowing. I can't even wrap my mind around it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, I want to honor her. So, so that kind of helped me stay on track and not asking the question. But I did get a little bit, I was thinking about, why am I here, like here in the room, or, why am I here, period, right? Like the existential question.
Mhm.
And, you know, they're the same question really, you know, in a lot of ways. So it was, anyways, for me, what, you know, and then didn't know if I was supposed to answer the question or just ask the question. So I just kept, so I had to, you know, kind of avoid answering the question, which was hard for me to do. Because I wanted to answer it. Anyways, but answers did sneak in. But it was very good meditation for me. It was simple, you know, just really simple. I think a lot of what Peace did was just so simple.
Yeah.
You know, that it gets, that you can't find it. I mean, it's so simple that it's hiding like in plain sight, that kind of thing. The simplicity is beautiful. Her simplicity is beautiful. And I'm attracted to it because I'm scattered and I'd like to be more simple. So,
yeah. And I think, I mean, like, simple, but though her, this was her drawing of the, like, it's not simple, but it is simple.
in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment. In the moment, exactly. And I think I think you said really key points, but I can't remember them. But such key points and kind of simple but hard. I think hard in that, you know, but simple. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And
I thought that the podcast was great. I actually heard it once before, and but I heard it, you know, a little differently this time. So I was glad to hear it again.
yeah.
And I thought it was really valuable because to me, the reason for reading about Peace Pilgrim and thinking about her and spending all this time talking about her is the kernel of it seems to be her process of being still and silent and listening and waiting to hear what arises. And that's what we're doing here. And the mistake would be to say we should be like her in terms of how she lived her life, because it's such a wonderful example of how that wasn't Daryl, was that his name? That wasn't his path. And he was looking for a simple, quick fix. And it's so easy to do in life is you look at what someone else is doing and you're inspired and you think, oh, I should do what that person's doing. And so you sort of go running off in that direction and it doesn't work very well. And so then, you know, someone else inspires, so you have this sort of zigzag life rather than that kind of quieting to find out really what is your own path. And she really embodied that. And even her drawing, you know, like, that's her drawing. That may not be our drawing. You know, someone else's might be a big circle or a big empty space, nothing in it, you know. I think that it's really different for everyone. I just wanted one other sort of
Yeah.
source of stories that I was thinking of. I was at a Shinzen retreat and I picked up this book by this guy named Shlomo or something. He told these wonderful Yiddish stories, and back in the 60s. And a lot of the stories had to do with people going on journeys and something happening, and either they did the thing that God wanted them to do, or they didn't. And then the rabbis would say, you blew it. That was your moment. That was the purpose of your whole life, and you blew it. So, I mean, it may be, we don't know the meaning of our lives. It may be some little thing we did we don't even remember.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that being quiet and simple, as you said, Tony, and just waiting to see what moves us. That's not the same as what Peace Pilgrim did necessarily.
Yeah.
In content.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great point. I think Daryl pointed out that he went 3 days and was miserable, but then on the third day he stopped and he was in the bathroom and kind of okay, I'm done with that, and so kind of peace, being done with that.
It was also, as you said that about the bath, this happened, it reminds me a little bit of the story of Buddha, where, he'd been through all these ascetic practices and he was emaciated, and then he found the middle way. He took nourishment and he was kind to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was able to find the path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed in myself, I also wondered about the question, and was I supposed to answer it or let go of it, and what I got was in my body, I could be, when you asked us to be open,
Mm-hmm.
I could feel the feeling of being present and being open.
Mm-hmm.
And in a way, that's an answer to the question. Just being present. And I noticed that that sometimes I would be like, oh, this is going to be a long time. And then I could feel myself just saying, okay, you don't have to go anywhere. You can just let go. And in a way, that was kind of a similar thing to being open. It's just letting go of anxious, just let go of it.
Yeah. Really, wise. Kind of playing with yourself or experimenting with yourself and trying to see where it can lead or not lead. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
found myself being very uncomfortable when I asked myself that question. In similar experience to Stephen, I would go off on different thoughts, but I noticed my body didn't seem very interested in, or my mind didn't seem very interested in allowing myself to focus on that. And I feel like that's a question that I've been avoiding for a very long time. So thank you for considering the situation first. I just wanted to share that experience.
And I think you didn't want to focus on that.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on anything but that.
Yeah. Huh? And so how did you focus on it, or did you turn away?
I focused on it for brief periods of time, but I would say the majority of it was spent turning away. When you would bring us back to the question, it would really put me back into the space of it, and I would feel the discomfort around it, and then eventually the discomfort kind of won, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the discomfort, can you feel that?
Yeah. I feel it down here, and tension, and just a weird emotional undertone of something I can't really put my finger on. But it wasn't very pleasant.
Yeah. And notice, just notice that. You know best, you know? Yeah.
You said it was okay to not have an answer, so I figured I'm off the hook. I tried a few times.
And yeah, that's okay to not have an answer. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't, and sometimes I have both things happening. It depends, uncomfortableness I feel, and peacefulness I feel. It just comes and goes, Yeah.
I find it myself really identified with the African American man who only tried for 3 days. Like everything he said, I was like, wow, I can totally be like him, like the Peace Pilgrim, the woman who walked all her life. That's someone who's like out there, like I don't know, I can hardly relate to just because my life is so different. But the African American man, what he did to give up everything, that part I couldn't relate too much. But after he was the 3-day journey, all the doubt, all the frustration, I was like, yeah, I would exactly do that. And I just really like the ending. He said, so he just went back to the mess he was in. But I'm sure it's he must the 3-day journey must have changed him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think like nobody know the big answer. Like what's it's like the infinity. It is like a goal. It's you look up to it, but you have to live your life moment by moment in the mess. I think every moment is a mess. If you look back, think about your life. Is there a moment like it's not a mess? So I think I after I hear that story, and when you ask just to think about what brought you here, like I just feel like I don't even like no pressure at all because it's always a mess. Just to try your best and use your common sense, and that's it. So anyway.
Yeah, yeah, and I think he was back into the mess, but I think innerly he was put the question to rest in himself. You know, that is the main point that I got out of it. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, like don't try so hard to pursue something so big, so lofty, but just like he said, like the basic things. Like he was so exhausted, like he didn't even bother with it. Just like taking care of the like what you can do, like small things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think he needed to go through that 3J journey because he needed to test himself, or he was needing to go on this journey, whatever he thought, and just go on the journey. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much, since I feel like I got like this big meal. Even before we did this last section, I feel so full, like it was a really full session today, and loved hearing the tape. And I went through a 2-year period where I was just banging my head against the wall, so I really identified with like knowing what I was doing, I couldn't do anymore, but not knowing what I was supposed to do. And I felt like I was always in pain and always in distress, and I kept picking things, and I decided I put $2,000 down to take yoga teacher training, and got into, I think it was supposed to be a year, right? And I probably got into, the 4th month, and I was like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be a yoga teacher. And there was a series of things like that I wasted quite a bit of money. So I identified with that, just like, okay, I'm going to do this is the right thing. Just really putting everything into it, and then realizing, like the billboard said, don't keep doing the same mistake. Like, you have to be able to pull out when you realize it's not right. And that's so I feel like I have a sense of what the right thing is for me now. And it's funny, but there's a sense of, like, it's not spectacular, you know what I mean? It's not spectacular like walking across the United States, the way she did. What she did was spectacular. I mean, and moment to moment, it probably wasn't spectacular, but in essence, when you look at what she did, and maybe that's true for anything that I might do too. Maybe looking back on it at the end of my life, I'll look back and say, wow, that was spectacular, but But really what I feel is right for me, because I feel like I just have this sense of it now that's different, that there's a turning point for me. And I don't know if it would take too long to tell the story of the turning point, but there was a turning point for me. And but I feel like the hard part now is like the doing it, not the knowing it. You know, now I have a sense of a knowing. It's not like the knowing isn't like oh, I'm supposed to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? I'm sure for some people it is like that. I'm supposed to be an artist. That's what I'm supposed to be. But it's sort of a knowing about how I'm supposed to be. And but the hard part is the doing it, like now. But there is some sense of peace about, I don't have to do that. And who knows, you know, maybe in a year from now I'll be back in the turmoil again, like that picture. And you know, that's you know, that turmoil is not a pleasant place to be, but like you were saying, you know, it's kind of like just acknowledging it and just trying to be easy through the turmoil. But I don't know, I guess I'm not really just commenting on my own journey. And,
thank you. I think we all have journeys, like, and I think you were brave to tell us all, like, of your journey, like yoga teacher training, and like 4th month, and you didn't want to be a yoga teacher, and that's fine, you know, and just valuing yourself, you know? Yeah.
And you never know how many of those more things you have. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's all.
Yeah. I think Peace Pilgrim talked about positive thinking. Like you have negative thinking and you have positive thinking. And positive thinking is what she lived her life on. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah. Ted, did you have a question?
Well, I kind of agree with what you said about how they talked about him before he went on his journey for a year. He was trying all sorts of things. He was, I forget what they said, but he tried to do some spiritual thing or some quest to sort of satisfy this, whatever was driving him. And then he did this thing, and it satisfied him. And none of those other things did. And so I don't know if he would agree that maybe at the end of the story, at the dramatic place where he quit, you would ask him, he said, "Oh, this is a big mistake, it's terrible, right?" But with time, I don't know if he would look back at it and say that was like avoidable, I should have never done it. I don't know if that's the conclusion. It sure sounded a lot more like it was unavoidable. I had to do it. It was the only direction my life was going in. I'm glad I did it. Then I could go on to doing whatever else I did. And the other thing is that so he got to a point where he didn't come out of it with a clear concept that he could cling to for the rest of his life. That's not a failure. That's not a failure. he got to a point where he in his life where there was a clear direction and he needed to go in that direction, and so he went 3 days in that direction. And my God, 3 days, it could have been a lot more time spent doing the wrong thing. 3 days. And he did it, and then it was like, okay, now it's time to turn. I got to this corner, and let's see, okay, now it's time to turn right and go a few blocks in that direction, you know? And I think that's more consistent with the, you know, as opposed to sort of like having this clear sort of like verbal and visual image and explanation for what I'm clinging to for the rest of my life, it's, you know, more that he was like put all his faith into going in one direction, and then was like, got all the signs that, okay, now it's time to turn and go in another direction. And, you know, maybe there were pieces of it that he could have done differently if he had to do it all over again. Maybe he shouldn't have thrown away his plays or something. Or maybe he had to do that in order to really have that cathartic sort of like, oh, okay, I tried everything. I did it, and I'm satisfied. Maybe he needed that. I don't know. But then, and the other thing I think to Anne's point is that not everything has to be so dramatic. I mean, just because he got to this point where he had to throw everything away in order to do that doesn't mean that we're all in a position where we all have to go and throw everything away and just really damage ourselves. No, I mean, it's sort of like, I think we all have some sort of like direction in our hearts that could be, you know, as little as sort of giving someone a hug instead of ignoring them and walking out of the room. You know? And so we do that, and that's the next thing.
And that's what Peace Pilgrim's was like message was, like giving someone a hug, like just valuing yourself and the whole community, you know?
We have a great community here. You guys are great people.
They're honest.
We like you too.
Just one thing, you know, that thing you said about her vanity, you know, like how vain to not forgive yourself. And I think it seems like, you know, I guess I'm on this middle way thing tonight, but like there's a certain, you too have to look at your own, you know, building your ego, building yourself and your path and your work and how to take care of yourself in the world and be a responsible adult. And you spend a lot of time in the first half of your life doing that. And then there's a point where you also have to sort of give up this part of you that thinks you have to, as you say, do something spectacular. You know, like, just take your eyes off of yourself and be willing to do the little thing. You know, like just what you're doing is maybe just fine, and just be ready for the next little thing. And you don't have to be Peace Pilgrim. You know, you don't have to be the Dalai Lama or something. Or Soryu, you know, like Soryu is Soryu, you know, and it would be a mistake to say we should all live that way, you know.
And I think I tried to give a talk like Soryu, and that's not gonna happen. Sorry, Soryu. But me, I give a talk as me, and you all give a talk as you or your essence. So thank you so much. No?
Coming up on time.
Okay. Whoa. And anyone have anything you can do in the future or do for the future? Yeah.
Yeah, the takeaway for me with this is that when you said it's okay to be confused, and I just embraced that, and immediately I just felt okay. And I think that's the ultimate nurturing for myself, is to just kind of take myself around when I'm afraid of the confusion and say, kind of hold my own hand and not run away from it.
Mm-hmm.
And, if I can take that outside of here and just remember that, it's easier said than done. That'll be a really nice thing for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So we now have time for anyone in the community to bring up any chances to take action in the world by going to, doing some sort of civic duty or maybe protesting a gas pipeline or something like that. So
good news. There is a gas pipeline on October 20th. 8:30 a.m. At the Giprags Park in Heinsberg on the Shelburne-Heinsberg Road. Yeah.
I have a few. You gonna say something?
No, I was asking Carolyn something.
A few events as well. Tomorrow there's an online forum at 6 o'clock. And it's regarding how global warming wasn't brought up enough during the presidential debates. It's with Bill McKibben. So it's if you Google just Google Bill McKibben, global change, global warming, you'll find it 6 o'clock tomorrow. And then on Wednesday there's 3 events. There's a film, Merchants of Doubt, at 5:30 reception. The film starts at 6 o'clock. It's about people who are hired to say that global warming isn't real or spread lies about other health issues. At 5:30 on Wednesday as well at Burlington City Hall, there's a public forum on the effects of implicit bias in law enforcement. And then at the Peace and Justice Center at 6:30, also on Wednesday, there's a meeting of the Coalition for a Livable City.
What was the first event?
The online forum.
Mm-hmm.
Movie. Oh, the movie. The movie. It's at Main Street Landing Film House. Movie starts at 6 o'clock, but there's a reception at 5:30.
6 o'clock Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah, what was that thing you were talking about with the
Merchants.
like the paid professionals to like, are they media professionals?
Yeah. Would it be best if people just come to me afterwards if they?
Okay.
I don't know if time's running out or.
Sure, shut me down. It's good.
No, I don't mean that. We'll talk after.
I live with it.
Yeah.
The VNA Family Room is registering people to vote, and it turns out that the biggest demographic in the country that doesn't vote are parents of small children. Makes sense. So if there's anybody you know who needs help registering and sort of negotiating all that, or might need your personal help that during voting day or going to vote early before you have to register by November 2nd, but you can vote anytime at City Hall.
Thank you.
If anybody else has anything they would like to announce, speak now, please. All right, we're going to, we have a couple of new residents since even the last time we've met here, and we're going to reintroduce the relatively new ones so that anybody who's first time or relatively new here can get to know us a little bit. So I will go first. My name is Cameron. I am from Columbus, Ohio. And just a nice little fun fact about me. I spent the morning duct taping bubble wrap to an RV window. All right. Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay, hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and last week I sat my first retreat.
Hey, I'm Steven. They call me Janko because we have two Stevens. And a fun fact is that I'm from Burlington, Massachusetts. So, Burlington to Burlington.
Hi, my name is Danny Joseph. I've been going by Danny J or Wishington. Fun fact about me. I was just living in Los Angeles for 5.5 years, and I'm really happy to be back in New England because I love it here. So, thanks.
My name is Brian. I'm from Arlington Heights, Illinois. It's a suburb of Chicago. And fun fact, my grandmother was born in Burlington, Iowa.
Well, thank you so much for all of you coming together. And I think we will sit at, do our chanting at 5 minutes after 7.
Isn't it normally 7:15?
Oh, 7:15. Start 7:15. Okay. Phew.
Everyone can relax.
Can I just ask if anyone went to the event